Welcome Rainians. For those of you new to Rain, I've produced a short guide on how to get started. And if you don't have an account yet, well, click the link below to get started. But what is Rain? Rain is a peer-to-peer lending platform with no price liquidations. The only time a loan can get liquidated is if the loan duration goes over its agreed time and has not been paid back. So if a loan is taken out by providing $100 of Solana as collateral and you borrow $80 worth of USDC for a week, let's say at 2% interest, then if the price of Solana goes down to $70 and then up to $110 over the course of the week, as the borrower, you only need to pay back that $80 plus that 2% interest, and because it's gone down to $70, you don't get liquidated, whereas in other platforms you would have got liquidated because of this. There is a grace period as well, so for every loan you get taken out, for every day of the duration, I should say, the grace period is an hour per day up to a maximum of 7 hours. So say you loan out for a week, you'll have a week of the interest, and then you'll have an extra 7 hours after that to pay back the loan. So are you looking to lend or are you looking to borrow? In this guide, we're going to cover both. So to lend out on Rain, you need to create a pool. By creating a pool, I believe you click the Earn tab, and then there will be a plus symbol to create a pool. Likewise, if you already have a pool, you can click over to the right-hand side, go to your dashboard, and click Manage. And here you'll see some stats of your pool already. You may not have this because you haven't set one up yet. And then click on the right-hand side and click Manage Pool, and for me, it will say I have to edit settings, but for you, it might say create pool. And you can go to a light version or a pro version. We're going to go to the pro version, and we're going to set our maximum duration as well as the APY that we want. So currently I've got set up a week for a very high APY of 260%. Which is something you won't see on other platforms, but there is an element of risk to this. So currently there are 88 tokens on Rain, and currently you can lend out 50 of them. There will be an option to loan out more in version 2 of Rain, which should come out about next month. And currently you can only loan out one token at a time at the moment. So at the moment I'm loaning out USDC. However, in future you can loan out multiple tokens on the same wallet. Currently, if I wanted to loan out a different token, I would go to my Phantom wallet and I would switch my accounts within my Phantom wallet and then loan out, say, some Sol. But for Rain, USDC and Sol seem to be the most loaned out tokens currently, but that may change with version 2. So what do we see here? So we see a bunch of different tokens, and we see their LTV and exposure, and I'll get what this means in just a sec. We have the 30-day interest, so throughout Rain, this is the 30-day interest that has been made so far. So Block, if you've been lending out Block, there's currently been 22,000 in interest being paid out to lenders in the last 30 days. And we can see the volume, we can see the average loan to value. So this might give you a good idea of what you want to set yours at, and the average duration. So we will go through the tokens, and currently I have Block at 60.5%, just because Block isn't going up and down too much, but it does have the potential to fluctuate, whereas something like Mudeng is a highly volatile meme coin, so you may want to even set this quite low. But to get the returns that I want, I've set it a little bit higher. And I've gone through this with each of these coins. And you can see here, lots of different loan to values, depending on what I think is my risk tolerance. So you might decide to have your loan to values higher so you could get more loans taken out, or you might decide to get it lower to play a bit safer. But if you want those loans to be taken out, you'd have to choose a lower interest rate. What is exposure? So exposure is how much of your pool do you want exposed to one particular asset. So for example, if I have 10,000 USDC in my pool and I have a 55% exposure on block, then someone can only borrow 5,500 worth of block from my pool completely. It doesn't matter if it's one loan, it doesn't matter if it's 5 loans. Over the course of all of the loans, the exposure can only be 55% of the pool. And this can be useful if you don't want someone to be like all in with one particular coin. So if you don't want, for example, everyone to be all in on Mudeng because the fluctuations in price are so volatile, you don't want to be taking a huge hit to your portfolio because that's the only coin you've lent out. So choose your tokens and then your exposure, your LTVs, and then we'll go on to the next step. So not only does Rain, I should say, lend out tokens, but also collections, so NFTs. Now I currently don't load on NFTs just because I want the maximum amount of tokens available. But with version 2, and you will be able to increase the number of tokens and collections, I may venture out more into this. But I've found that collections generally tend to work better loaning out against Solana as opposed to USDC, so something to bear in mind. So same kind of thing, you can click tick to activate your lending protocol against various NFTs, and then you can choose the LTVs and exposure. I'm just going to click that off, but if you want to choose any NFTs, they're in here. Advanced options. So firstly, if you click the advanced pool parameters, you can see various options here. You've got fixed rate interest per loan. So I think this is quite useful if you don't know what to charge as an APY. So for example, I've charged 5% per loan for a 7-day loan, and that's what got me to the 260% number. And the minimum amount per loan, I could probably up this, but it's just set at 10, and the maximum's at 24,000 at the moment. I would recommend generally having your max amount over how much is in your pool, just so that your whole pool can be taken out at once. But you may not. You may prefer that you want multiple loans, so you don't want them all being taken out at once. But there's nothing to stop, say, one person then just taking multiple loans. So say I reduce this to 10,000, there's nothing stopping someone taking 2 loans of 10,000 out for the same coin, unless your exposure was below that amount. So this is an interesting one. This is pool utilization rate, and what it means is the interest will change based on how much of your pool is taken up. So you might decide that, oh, if no one's lending from my pool, I want my interest to be very low. But if people are starting to borrow from me, I want to start charging more because it sounds like I'm not charging as much. So you can change this, and you can change the loan term adjustment rate. So this is a coefficient that adjusts the interest rate based on the ratio of loan duration. I'm just going to, if I change this to 1, and you can play around with these numbers. But for example, 40% up until my utilization of my pool is 40%. It's about 260%. And then as it gets higher, for example, if you're using the full 100%, it would go up to 710%. Now, this isn't going to work for my pool because my APYs are always really high. But if you ever say, maybe you've only got like 1% interest on your pool or 2% interest on your pool, which is about, I think it's like 60 to 90% APY, then you might find that that pool gets taken up really quickly. So by adding this on, you could potentially charge more if your pool is getting filled very quickly. Just going to delete this for a sec. And you can play around with this and simulate the loans for a different amount of loans. Compound interest. Now, if you want your interest from your loans to go back into your pool, be re-injected into your pool, click this tick mark. The only downside of this is that if you get liquidations, and they're profitable liquidations, Rain will take a 2% fee. But it does mean that if you get a liquidation, it just gets re-injected back into your pool, which is very handy as opposed to going back into your wallet. So if you're not planning on just keeping a close eye on it, I would have this checked. Otherwise, you could manually do it and click it off and then re-put all the money back into the pool afterwards. And here you can check buy now, pay later, which is a feature of buying NFTs, and we can have a look at that later. Pool conditions, so if you check this on and off, you might decide that I don't want new accounts to borrow from my pool, so you might have a minimum account age. You might say I don't want someone who's never taken out a loan before, so you might say I want you to have taken out 10 loans and repaid them before you can take a loan from my pool. The minimum volume that they've done, so again, filtering out potentially like new users, and the max liquidation rate. So if you find that someone is being liquidated or they're defaulting on their liquidations, you might decide I don't want this person to borrow from me. But a lot of lenders actually like liquidations because if people forget to pay back their loan and they're actually in the positive, that might be something that you want. So you'll hit, and there's also private loans. So if you want to set up a loan with someone in the Discord, you might enable private loans and select a key so that they need that key to take a loan from you, which can be useful if you want to set up specific like long-term loans, for example. And then click next step. You'll see a review of all of your information, and then you can update your pool. And so, but how do you know what kind of LTVs to choose, what exposure to choose? So if you go to the drop-down tab here and go to Analytics, you can see Analytics for various number of coins. We're going to stick with USDC for now. And you can see the 30-day, the 15-day, and the 7-day volume for USDC. You can see that over 30 days, we've seen 8,400 loans with a 10.5 million volume at average APY of 119%. So what we can do on the right-hand side, we can see all the tokens that have been loaned against USDC, and they're sorted by, I believe, the amount as opposed to the interest. So we can go down to, say, for example, block, and we can go scroll down and we can see the daily trends. We can see where the volume's coming in. We can see average LTVs. So average LTVs, for example, the highest one is around between 45 to 50%, but we can see a bunch of other loans going at higher LTVs, as well as APY distribution. So, for example, most of the APYs tend to be around like the 90%, Even down here, we've got lower ones of like 30%. So it can be really cheap to borrow from Rain, but that will depend on your loan to value. For example, the APYs down here probably correspond to more like the 40, 45%, whereas the 60, 65 are going to be like some of your higher loans generally. And then duration, you see some 1 day loans going on, but the majority of loans tend to be around 7 days. And sometimes you see 14 plus, sometimes you see 30 days. It depends on your risk tolerance. And then if we scroll down, you can see all of the latest loans that have been happening so far. So for example, we've got the Pengu being loaned out here. And if you hover over here, you can see the APR. So APR is 175%, but it's only a 1 day duration. So the amount of interest will probably be around, I don't know, maybe like 0.25% for a 1 day. And then you can see the borrower, you can see the lender, and sometimes you can have a look at the lender, click on the lender, and you can see their entire pool, which can be useful to know what kind of loans are being taken out. Um, Eventually, what we'll see is, for example, for most used collateral, we've got block. Hopefully, this will change to all just block, and then we'll have an all tab as well. So eventually that will happen, but with version 2 right around the corner, we're going to see some big changes. What about borrowing? How do you want to borrow? So if we go to the borrow tab and we click borrow tokens, we can choose our token we want to use as collateral, as well as the amount we want to borrow. So in this case, if I'm going to choose to collateralize 0.1 Sol, which is currently around 100 Sol, it's about $195 at the moment. We can see various options for loaning out. These are all 0% APRs, which is great. So it's very good, but the amount of money that you're probably loaning out isn't as much. So for example, 8 day duration at 0 APR, which is great, but we can only loan $9.77, which is still good. It's still a 50% that we're loaning out, but you might want more. So if we click on the filters, we can look at the loans and we can adjust these arrows based on our own needs. So we might say, actually, I want the loan amount to be the most important thing, and I want a minimum days of 7. This way, if we click on this, we can look at, okay, Nick here is providing us the most USDC because he has the highest LTV in his pool. So I might want to borrow from him at 90% APR. And you can see the interest rate. But I might decide, actually, I want this one because this one is only a little bit less, but I pay a lot less interest. And then we can click borrow. And it won't show here. But well, let me just see if this works. So we will see a transaction, which you guys can't see at the moment, for us to just borrow USDC and deposit Solana. Once we do that, we can go to our debt pool, and I don't have any debts currently. I can go to my dashboard for activity, and generally what you'll see here is you'll see a debt. I'm gonna actually let's do it now. Let's borrow. Let's actually take out the trade. So let's go to 0.1. I'm going to choose lowest APR. I'm going to choose this pool. I'm going to confirm the transaction. and then we get this saying we've successfully done it. And then if we go over here, we can see our debts. So you borrowed $9.78 USDC, and we go over to our dashboard and there's our debts. So if we want to settle our debts, we can go over here, we can click action. There's different ways to, different actions to sell. So we can sell at market, we can sell the market at market, sorry, we can sell the token at market price, and we can extend the duration. We can repay. Now, market sell and repay will be pretty much the same for this. But I'm just going to market sell this for a second. Let's see. We're going to sell that back. Oh, okay. So I'm with. So if I sell, I will get the USDC. Whereas if I repay the loan, I'm going to repay the loan and get back my SOL. So that's how that works. So I'm just going to repay that back. And another thing you can do is use Rain's margin swap feature. So Rain's margin swap feature is it allows you to long coins with leverage. So again, I'm just going to put in 0.1, and here we're longing USDC with SOL, which might sound a bit confusing at first, but it basically means we're shorting SOL. So again, we can choose 0.0% APR, 1 day, and I'm longing USDC with, or effectively shorting SOL on a leverage of 5.48x leverage, which can usually be quite risky on other platforms, but with Rain, you don't get liquidated based on price, only duration. So if the price of SOL were to go up overnight and then back down, we're not going to get liquidated with our loan, unlike other platforms. So we might even want to choose something like this one. So this one's great because it's 14-day, but because of his LTVs, we can't actually choose a higher leverage. We're only using like a 1x leverage here, whereas this top one is 5.48. So you need to go through and check what kind of leverage you're comfortable with, and then you need to accept the terms. So you can accept the terms, and it says you need to return 0.55 SOL in 1 day to get the USDC back. There's two ways you can do this. You either have the extra 0.55 SOL in your account to return to get the USDC, or you can just sell it back in the in your dashboard on your debts. So I hope that helps. So if you guys have got any questions, I'll just go over the NFTs really quickly. So NFTs is very similar. You can collateralize any of your NFTs. So you might have, I don't actually have any NFTs, so it's taking me to the buy now, pay later. So I'll just go back to this. So you might say have a certain NFT. Then you can borrow SOL or you can borrow USDC against that NFT as a loan. And just remember to pay back the loan, otherwise the person who you took the loan against will borrow that, will keep hold of your NFT. And buy now, pay later is a way of putting down a certain amount or a lower amount for an NFT with the idea of paying back. So if we look at the Parcel Homeowners Association, so if we look here, you can buy it for 1.72 SOL as opposed to the full price, and then you will pay later 1.45 SOL. But why would I do this? So the idea in mind is if you believe that the house price is going to go up in future, you might decide that I can then sell that at a profit. So if the profit, sorry, if the price goes up, you get to keep the extra profit, and you've only provided the extra 1.72 sol as opposed to paying the full 3.17, whatever it was, and you just pay a little bit of interest and you keep the profit. So that could be a nice way of not putting all your money into an NFT, but um, enjoying the gains. So I hope that helps. If you want to see anything else, let me know, comment down below, and yeah, hit my referral link down below. I'll also post the Discord for Rain, so you can get started. There is also a written guide for this if you prefer a written form over this video, and there will be an FAQ section in the Discord. So I hope this helps, and I'll see you soon.